What's going on, everybody? Keith Niebuhr with Auburn Live and On 3, and this is Fourdown Territory, the inaugural episode where a couple times a week I'm going to take 4 questions: first down, second down, third down, and fourth down. We'll get to the questions submitted by Auburn Live subscribers. Hopefully we'll give you some insight and get you to know some of the things going on behind the scenes with Auburn football recruiting. Let's get right to it. All right, first down, Lord George says, Keith, there have been a lot of perceived ups and downs over the summer with Auburn football recruiting. Currently, the Tigers sit at 8 commitments, but there are rumors of 1 or 2 more on the verge of being added to the 2023 commitment list. So given all this, what's your assessment of where this Auburn class sits in early September, given everything that's happened off the field? Okay, well, there's 2 sides to this. The one side says, hey guys, 8 commitments is 8 commitments. No matter how you slice that, if you're going into the second week of September and you only have 8 verbals, you're not in a good spot. You just aren't, especially given that your main competitors, main competition, your arch rivals, many of them have twice as many commitments and have filled more of their needs. So that's the negative. It is what it is. I mean, Auburn still has no true defensive line commitments. You've got some edge guys. One guy, Wilkie Denard, could move inside, but no true defensive line commitments, and only 1 offensive line commit. So let's not kid ourselves. There's a lot of work to be done, okay? A lot of work to be done. Now, the flip side of that is, if Auburn is only going to sign maybe 18 to 20, let's say, come December, presumably leaving spots open for guys to sign in February, and then also several grad transfers. Look, Auburn's losing a lot of guys off this current team. The Tigers are going to need some transfers and grad transfer types to come in and help fill the roster for next year, and probably many of them will have to play vital roles. There's going to be a lot of roster turnover after this coming season. So if you look at it that way and you're going to leave a bunch of spots, given that Adam Hopkins could potentially be close to committing to Auburn, given a 4-star receiver, given that offensive tackle Janoris Wilson out of Florida could be close to maybe committing to Auburn, that would get you to 10, and then you'd essentially be at least 50% done of where you need to be in December. You still have all of September to go, most of September, all of October, all of November, and then half of December. So there is plenty of time. So again, on the one hand, 8 commitments is 8 commitments. It's not pretty if you look at it that way. On the other hand, you're close to being halfway done to where you need to be in December, maybe even more. I mean, we don't know how many Auburn's truly going to sign in December or how many it wants to sign. We just know that there are going to be spots left open for transfers. And so when you look at it that way, and then you say, look at all the things that happened, all the drama earlier in the year, all the negative recruiting, kids wanting to know, prospects wanting to know, Coach, are you going to be at Auburn when I get there? If I commit with Auburn, are you going to be here? Do I want to put all this time talking to you guys if I don't know there's, with the stability situations? Given all that negative recruiting, then all of a sudden it doesn't look so bad. If you factor negative recruiting plus almost halfway where you really want to be come December 15th, doesn't look so terrible, does it? But again, when you're looking at Auburn's numbers in terms of total commitments versus Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, those schools, then it doesn't look great. Now, one other positive sign is when you look at the average rating per commit, it's right at 4 stars. So the quality seems to be there. Maybe Auburn's not beating out too many of the elite programs for guys just yet, but the quality of the 8 commitments is fairly high. So take that as well. So not all is, how do I say this? It's not all bad, guys. And again, we think more commitments are certainly on the horizon in the very near future. Right, second down, Beef Stew 0702. Beef Stew, I love the name, buddy. Beef Stew 0702 wants to know which elite recruit, who is the highest ranked recruit that Auburn has the best chance with to land in the 2023 class. Now, I'm not going to say they're going to land the guy. I'm just saying best chance. I think this conversation starts and ends with 5-star edge Quay Rusov, Montgomery, Alabama's Carver High School. He's visited Auburn multiple times. He plays edge, and Auburn has a major need at the edge position. Iku Leota and Derek Hall probably going to be gone after this year. So he could get on the field early. He's got great relationships with the Auburn coaching staff, namely edge coach Rock Bell and Tony. Brian Harsin has personally got involved in this recruitment. So there's a lot of things working in Auburn's favor here. But the same schools that you always have to beat out to land these true linemen and edge rushers in the South are rearing its heads. rearing their respective heads, That'd be Alabama and Georgia. Now, Ohio State's also involved in a couple other schools, but really, it'll probably come down to Auburn, Alabama, and Georgia for Quay Russaw. So again, certain things working in Auburn's favor, close to home. He's visited multiple times. He's close with the staff. He plays a position that Auburn has a huge need for, and he can get on the field early. That gives you a legitimate shot. Now, he's, again, visited Auburn many times. He officially visited Auburn, in June, was back at Auburn just this past weekend for, of all things, the Mercer game. You don't normally get 5 stars in town when you're not playing a Power 5 type opponent or a conference opponent. And yes, he's close to Auburn, okay? Yes, I get that. But he could have gone anywhere, or he could have stayed home. But he decided to go watch Auburn play Mercer, get a better feel for how they do things on the Auburn defense, led by defensive coordinator Jeff Schmedding, edge coach Rock Bellantoni, obviously, wants to see how he's working with guys. So that gave him a firsthand look. Also of note, and we pointed this out many times on the site before, he's really best friends with James Smith, his 5-star defensive tackle teammate. They're going to go to the same school together. That gives Quay Russaw added value. If you can win over one, you're going to win over both. So Auburn has a legit shot, we think, with Quay Russaw, 5-star edge from Montgomery Carver, but it's not going to be easy. Let's not mince words here. It's going to be very difficult. Auburn is in the hunt, and they're not going to have a decision, him or Smith, until very late in the cycle, December probably. Maybe they won't even announce until signing day. So Auburn just keep chipping away, keep getting him back on campus, and see what happens. Quay Russaw, 5-star edge, will be back at Auburn for the Penn State game on September 17th. That's another win for Auburn. Again, keep chipping away, keep plugging away at it, keep hoping for the best. See what happens. All right, next question. Third down. AU Bryan 98 and Killed by Kane. I love these names. They both kind of have the same question. How come Auburn, is a top 12 historical type football program, has not been able to recruit offensive linemen for the last 6 years? And that's a question that I don't really have an answer to. I've tried to think about this many times. I've talked to my coworkers, Jeffrey Lee and Cole Pinkston. I've talked to reporters from other websites, Jason Caldwell, our good friend, Dukes, our good friend. And it's really a mystery. So we'll try to put this together here. But really, when you go back to 2017, that was probably the last time Auburn had a bumper crop on the offensive line. As you'll recall, there was a 5-star in that class, offensive tackle Calvin Ashley, who I think as a redshirt freshman did start a game for Auburn, but then left the program just a week or so later. Same class. 4-star offensive tackle Austin Troxell, still on the team, still playing a significant role, and 4-star center Nick Brahms, who did come back for a 6th season, but now has had to basically retire from football and is now a student coach. Just bad knees. He's had one injury after the other. It's a miracle he's able to start as many games for the Auburn Tigers as he did. But since that time, it's just been like the Sahara Desert of recruiting. I mean, it's just been barren out there. And one of the things I think was an issue at times, and this is something that, by the way, this really relates to or applies to both coaching staffs, the former staff of Gus Malzahn and the current staff of Brian Harsin. But one of the things that we've seen was that both times, both staffs have sort of gone after the big fish, like you always have to do. And when they struck out on those guys, as they circled back to other guys, just wasn't much there. There wasn't much left. And then guys just weren't as interested as maybe they had been earlier in the cycle. And I think that was an issue, though, really more so under the last staff. I mean, that's just how I perceived it. Look, I'm trying to kind of put it all together and figure this thing out, and it's hard. But so that's kind of what we think is one explanation. Now, both those coaching staffs may say, no, you're dead wrong, dude. You are dead wrong. That's not how it worked. But that's kind of what it looked like, and sometimes perception is reality. But the great mystery, obviously, just this past cycle, Auburn only signed, I think, one offensive lineman. And the cycle before that was really nobody's blame, right? That was a transitional class, pardon me, where you fired one coaching staff, a new staff comes in, and you're just trying to make the best of it. Auburn did land Colby Smith in that class. But what we haven't seen many junior college guys the last couple cycles. And we're probably going to see some this cycle because Auburn's going to lose 6 or 7 of its top linemen on the offensive side from the 2022 football team. So We're probably going to see that. And also, Auburn hasn't exactly come up big in the transfer portal. So I'm just repeating all these things that's happened, and you're trying to find out, and everybody listening, why. And I gave you one example of one reason, one possible explanation, that maybe they aimed a little too high at the start and didn't pay as much interest in developmental guys early. Now, I think that was more of an issue for the previous staff. This new staff right now is hanging in there with a lot of guys. DJ Chester, 4-star tackle from Georgia. Bo Hughley, 4-star Georgia offensive tackle commit from Georgia. Janoris Wilson's a 3-star offensive tackle from Lakeland, Florida. I think Auburn's in great shape to land him. But again, I'm just telling you facts. Giving you the why is difficult. So why even take this question? I guess it's because, we've all tried to figure it out. And maybe it hasn't been one thing. Maybe it's been just a bunch of things, right? Maybe the thing that I talked about earlier, identifying big guys early, spending maybe a little bit too much time on them and not enough on guys that you could realistically land. But then fans get mad at you if you don't go after the big shots too. So it's a little bit of a catch-22 there. But in any event, it has been an issue, and it's been amazing because when you think about it, Auburn has been able to sell playing time. Auburn has sent guys to the NFL on the offensive line. I mean, right now, Braden Smith's one of the better tackles in the league, okay? So it just doesn't make sense. For years that I think it did maybe hurt Auburn a little bit. You had NFL personnel people, including the one guy that just clearly didn't like Gus Malzahn. I can't remember his name. I think he was from the Cleveland Browns, who would basically say that Auburn offensive linemen were behind. They weren't, it was hurting them playing in the Auburn offense. And whether that was true or not, I think that probably hurt a little bit. So again, I think it's just been a bunch of little factors, and this staff is trying to reverse that trend, but it hasn't been easy. And once you fall into something, it's hard to climb out of it. So I think what's going to happen this cycle, I think Auburn's going to probably sign 4 or 5 high school offensive linemen, a couple of junior college guys, and then still go into the portal. Because when you talk about who you're going to lose off this team, this current team, you can't just rely just on high school guys. Junior college guys, elite ones, will be able to come in and acclimate themselves pretty early on. But you're also going to need some transfers, at least 1, maybe 2, to come in and push for starting playing time right away. And hopefully, if you're Auburn, by signing 4 or 5 high school guys this cycle, that will get the trend changing. That'll get things moving in the right direction. But again, the why. The why is always the hard part, isn't it? Okay, 4th down. Question comes from Hunter Taylor 17, who says, Keith, which 2023 Auburn commitment could move up the most in the rankings and which one could fall the most? Boy, that second part's not going to be fun to answer, but we'll start with the first part. And I go with 4-star running back Jeremiah Cobb. I mean, this is a guy that I think sits outside the top 100 the last time I checked, according to the On3 consensus, which kind of weighs the averages of the industry. But he's off to a really strong start this year. He's fast. He's elusive. I think people would like to see more lateral sway from him, but he's off to such a good start. And I think his profile continues to rise. And as that happens, more people in the rankings industry are going to look more closely at his film. And his film so far is pretty doggone good. He's a home run threat every time he touches the ball, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. Now, to answer the second part of your question, that's a tough one. You can't win however you answer this. I would say Braden Joyner, being a high 3-star, potentially could drop, but he also could go up. And here's why I say that. He could go up with an outstanding senior season. He could drop because he's playing offensive tackle. Now, that's no fault to him. That's just where he's at. But so he's not really accumulating more film at center. So if his offensive tackle film is just so-so, potentially he could be a guy that falls. Now, on the other side of that, again, if he kicks butt out there, it could rise. But maybe the guy to watch could be Terrence Love, the 4-star safety, because, people want to know, is he a safety? Is he going to be a linebacker? So I think the people doing the rankings are going to take a close look at his film this fall and see, ultimately, where do they project him out which position, safety or linebacker. And then once they do that, then they'll say, okay, now let's take a look at his skills. How applicable is his skill set to either playing safety or linebacker? And then they'll come to some sort of conclusion. As a safety, I think people have concerns. Does he have the lateral speed, the sideline to sideline speed, excuse me? And two, how big is he getting? Is he getting too big for the position? So, again, people are going to say, well, you idiot, these guys are good players. Well, of course they are. They're all good players. Otherwise, they wouldn't be committed to school like Auburn. However, when you took a look at the rankings situation, like I said with Terrence Love, again, what position is he going to play? It's not an easy transition from safety to linebacker and vice versa. So long term, where do they see him? And then two, where do they see that skill set fitting best? And is he a 4-star if he's playing safety? Is he a 4-star if he's playing linebacker? So a lot of unknowns with both those guys, who again are both very good football players. The question wasn't about that. The question was who could fall. I brought that up. Another one to keep an eye on could be DeQuavius Sori in terms of falling. Now, I think as On3 only has him as a 3-star, but in the industry, the On3 consensus, he's a 4-star, okay? There are some concerns about his overall foot speed, okay? Is he a 4'6" guy? Is he a 4'7" guy? Or is he a 4'9" guy? Now, he's a big receiver, 6'2", over 200 pounds. He's got a lot of good skills. He's a good player. He scores a lot of touchdowns. Competition's not great. So people may want to look in that final determination of rankings, how fast is he? If they like his speed on film, maybe he goes up. If they don't, maybe he goes down.